Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are at. Hope you're having a fantastic day. It's SoulSaint here, and I want to talk to you guys about something that I wanted to share with y'all, just to give you guys context about where we've been at over the last couple of years, or the last year in particular. Regarding 2023, I know by the time you watch this video, it's going to be Christmas for those that celebrate it, or if you have any other holidays you celebrate, happy holidays, right? Now, I wanted to talk about some of the things that I experienced in Raid, as well as some accomplishments, some milestones that I kind of hit, some inspiration, some people that I want to give a special shout out to, and then just an overall some things of what I'm looking forward to in the future, right? So in retrospect, let's talk about it. So I went from being a content creator on various different games, whether it was variety or specific games that I played before. You'll see it on my channel. It's not hidden. It's not something I'm ashamed of. It's definitely something that I've done before, right? With that being said, though, I recently made the decision. You know, a lot of people were giving me feedback in the community about my experience in Raid and how people were gravitating towards it, how people were excited about it, and it really encouraged me. It was really, really encouraging to see you guys. You guys kind of like reach out and basically just let me know, it's like, hey, this is something, you got something here, you know, you might as well go ahead and see it through. And we prefer this, right? So I decided not too long ago to post a video about my expectations moving forward, about like me basically saying that I'm going to try to push content out related to Raid. And lo and behold, some of the craziest stuff, and I have to say this like truthfully, I think that it's interesting to say this because I'm gonna go on a tangent here, but like basically, it went from my channels, you know, whether it's on YouTube or on Twitch, went from being little old me to someone who's on, yo, it's SoulSaint, you know, every single channel I know almost go to and hang out with in some capacity, and it was really, really like very apparent the moment I had the chance to see some well-established people, like for example, I don't mean to dox him or anything like that, but YSD, I went to go say hello to him in one of his channels because I had the time, and he was live on YouTube. It was around when Curse City just came out, and he was like, SoulSaint, you do videos for Raid, don't you? And I said, yeah, I do. You know about little old me? And it like, he's like, yeah, I was watching your video not so long ago, and it just made my day. It made my day to see that like my efforts have paid off in a sense, right? So I have to say this to you guys, like I mean this from the bottom of my heart. One of my greatest accolades today, to this date, is that I got to have so many of you guys help me make such an impact in people's lives, and I hope to continue to do that. So if we're going to talk about things that I'm very proud of, I'm going to list a couple out, and of course some of them are vanity, some of them are some big milestones, some things that I've wanted to accomplish personally in my life. But you know, we recently had a move earlier this year that was very impactful for me, and I was trying to find my way to, you know, get the ground moving, and I was worried about all this downtime in the community and when I'm live and I'm doing my content, and you know, whether or not you guys would be still around, right? So I want to give a thank you first off to those of you guys that are still here to this day. Thank you. First off, thank you, seriously. And to really put it into perspective, we went from like a non-existent focus on Raid to that's our main big deal, right? And we grew and we grew and we grew. And one of the biggest accomplishments that I received this year was being able to be a part of the content creator program for Raid. It is very interesting because I've shot my shot, for lack of better words, in various different programs and for various different games. And unfortunately, either they were already, you know, sufficiently stationed with people to do what they had to do, or maybe they just weren't looking for what I was providing, right? And as a result of that, I respect it. You know, I always think that at the end of the day, that's their loss, but you know, that's the petty side of me, to be real. But on the same note too, I also got to see a lot of people gravitate towards it, and it really caused such a conundrum, and I ended up getting accepted into the player program when I applied, and it did take a little bit, you know, as I expected, but it came within a reasonable time frame to really illustrate that, like, yo, we see you, and it felt like I was validated in a sense. I know that sounds weird to say, but like it was one step closer towards that big perspective, like, yo, I have something, right? So I want to give a big special thank you to Plarium, and this is going to come off a little weird, but like to some of the coordinators, Ace, if you're listening in, as well as Banana. Thank you guys so much for all the support and the encouragement and basically reaching out and letting me know that I got accepted. It was really cool. But I also have to give a thank you to a couple other people who along the way, other content creators and other people in the community who have been a pillar of support to me. And basically this video is going to be nothing but a bunch of thank yous. So let me just get it out of the way first, and I'll talk about my accolades and all that afterwards, right? So, yes, we did get accepted into the player program, but I feel like there was a lot of encouragement from a lot of other creators. In particular, I want to give a shout out to Final Kenpachi. Final Kenpachi always said that, like, when I was spitting ideas about whether or not I was eligible, I felt inadequate, and he was like, no, dude, reach out, go. Like, he was a fundamental aspect. I was like, yeah, go do this. And he gave me information. He's like, they're looking for this, like put your effort out there, do your part. But don't be afraid to shoot your shot. And he was like, go for it, And he even says, like, it took me a while to get accepted in, but when I did it, I'm in, And I was like, okay, cool. And then another shout out to, like, HWZ and in particular MTG Jedi. Those two guys, ever since I've had a little bit of correspondence with them and I reached out to them and I talked to them about, like, hey, I'm serious about trying to get into the program. Is there any way that you could kind of bridge the gap between it? It's like, they only could do so much and whatnot, but they definitely said, we'll put a good word in for you. And they really, I feel like it, because when I got reached out, they Plarium informed me. It was like, yeah, people were talking about you. And I was like, great, and it's a great experience to hear that, like, people were speaking positively of me, right? And then, as we're developing our skills and we're perfecting our craft more and more, we got to a point where, we started offering out services, something that I was very afraid to do because I don't want to step on other people's hustle or whatever the case may be. I don't want to be one that's disrespectful in any capacity. I wanted to be respectful and courteous, but also helpful, while also helping myself in a sense, and the establishment of us doing takeover services has been phenomenal. I mean, so many people have been asking me for help for things, and thankfully I'm in a place where I do understand and I know how to do some things. And that wouldn't have been possible without some key people who have been with me since the very beginning. So I'm going to bring a little bit more home to the community. I want to give a special shout out to Con Artist, who has been with me every step of the way, ever since he joined to be a part of one of my moderation teams, one of my pillars of the community. He's given a very big helping hand in a lot of things, whether it's establishing stuff for our future subathon, which we're aiming towards, or if it was for helping me set up literally the foundation of what became our takeover services. He was fundamental in that. So without core people in the community like him and Vader, who has been with me along the way too as well, doing some back end things, the voice mod acquisition and establishment into our content has been something else. You'll see some clips on there if you're ever curious. That's where another sub baby comes from when, in terms of one of my alerts, he's also giving me those sound bites to use in terms of like alerts and whatnot. He's always trying to help in some capacity, and I'm grateful for him. Big salutes to my real life brother, believe it or not. Sword, if you're hearing me, God bless you. Always encouraging, always trying to be assisting in whatever capacity he can be, and although real life kind of prohibits him from being super engaged as much as he would like to, he's always trying to find ways like, I think the community would like this. He tosses a little grapevine. He's always asking questions for the community, trying to pull that conversation topic to the light so that, like, it'll give me perspective of like what the community wants. So, we never shy away from like hearing feedback from people, as long as it's respectful. If you're just there just to berate us, and that doesn't help nobody, right? But anyways, with that being said, when it comes to raid, particularly, and I kind of want to talk about this, we went from an account that was, very, very, it's like an uphill battle, no matter how you look at it, whether you're spinning or not. If you don't hit the right things, it's very difficult, right? But in terms of like where I went from earlier this year to where we are now, there were some things that we were struggling to do, some big key things that I was able to do, and it's crazy because, like, if you really think about how long time has gone, establishing myself within Demon Lord, being able to one key, and it got so much to a point now where I'm doing like simplified versions of some very competitive builds just to make sure that I have enough to sped up. Like, I have that luxury now to be able to do it. So, like, for example, although this is like a negative affinity for my team, I was able to build a one key, clan boss team for not only my account but for various other people's accounts, which is very awesome. I mean, a lot of people on this list I've had a helping hand in, which is kind of cool to say, in my clan, right? Another big accolade that I was able to accomplish recently was being able to take my champion pool, the investment I made into my characters, and went from, struggling in hard, brutal territory content when it came to Hydra. Now we're top chesting, Nightmare, and I'm actually putting up some decent numbers. The top chest for Nightmare is literally only like, what, 36.6 mil? I'm doing 202 mil, we showing off, right? We've been succeeding a lot in our Hydra clashes, as you can obviously see. Like, it's been a really good experience for me, being able to take one or two champions and mixing, matching them. The rotations for the heads and the affinities kind of shift a little bit. We've been able to kind of like work around that and find some very, accommodating positions for our characters to be able to thrive and and flourish in this environment. So that's another big accolade that I would like to say that I really, really, really was like excited excited to say that like I accomplished this. One of my checklist things that I wanted to do. Another funny thing, and this is actually kind of a big accolade that happened, I would say fairly recently. It's probably like it's been a couple months now, I'd probably say. But another thing, we're going to flip it over to PvP. PvP is very competitive, and to be honest with you, from a spinning standpoint, it can be very demanding. Now, you're not forced to, and there's a lot of, like, ways that you could still kind of come on top with like, basically what I would consider unorthodox picks. A lot of people are surprised that, like, some things that, although they may not be on the front page of, like, meta per se, doesn't mean that they lose complete relevancy, right? And I took some characters that were not necessarily viewed initially when they first came out as, like, top-tier competitive champions, and I was like, man, I see something in that. And it went from that to I'm going to be one of the pioneers to really push this. And, through various iterations using, like, some Wukong for particular, as well as some meta champions, too. Don't get me wrong. Excuse me. There's been a lot of, like, different champions and whatnot that I've been, tinkering with. But, like, special nod to, like, for example, some Wukong, when they first looked out, it was pretty much, like, utility. Maybe a little hybrid here and there for PvE content, but for PvP, it's utility. Then we brought out the damage Wukong. And everybody is, like, asking me about... about whether or not I did it a certain way. Let me see your build. Let me see what you got. What is your focus on it? Do you add this amount of stat? Like, what are you looking for in the build? And it's such a like a validating experience to be able to see a lot of community members be impressed with something I bring to the table, right? Now, with that being said, we made so much of an effort, I want to say, to getting progress in the PvP side of things that I was able to hit plat during plat reset. And although it's a little bit more difficult, I'll give a little bit of a feedback to player if they want to listen a little on me. Make the schedules a little bit more accommodating for some of the North American crew, because I'm on that side of the hemisphere. It's selfish, I know, but like with that being said, we still set some time aside to be able to try to make that push effort. And we got in, we stayed in. It was very tight. I was one of the edge runners at the time. Very, very tight trying to push in. And lo and behold, we were able just to be able to secure it. I think I was like in the top 300 at one point. I think it was like 386 or 384 or 324. So I don't remember exactly the number. But I placed. And amongst that, I was able to get my plat avatar. One of two so far. But I will say that's an accolade that I was very happy to say, like, hey, I could do it. And that's something that I would say that, like, my biggest blessing and experiences so far, a lot of times when I'm talking to people, they're unsure about their progression or unsure about whether or not this doing or aiming for something is feasible. And I used myself as well as any experiences I have on any other accounts of like, yo, you don't know what you're sitting on. It's a matter of knowledge, effort, and just a willingness to go for it, right? And I was able to do that on a lot of accounts, including my own, and I used my account particularly and my experiences as a reference point for players that are watching. If you so happen to have time, they see that and they're like, man, he's using this to do this. Like, for example, I know this is going to sound funny, but like out of the deprivation of champions or the lack of champions has breeded ingenuity, right? And that's something I always talk about. The lack of champions, the lack of a resource, the lack of something, often more than not, when you got to get something done, it breeds this innovativeness that allows you to do something. So yeah, I do have an Inari, and I was like, man, I want to get to 25 so I can free up Artac from 24 because I don't have a Ninja or any of the equivalencies of it. And I was like, maybe I could, free him up and put Artac over there in Ice Golem, which is where he's at on my account, right? I did that, and my answer was using a very unorthodox champion that a lot of people were not expecting. And a big salute to someone else in the community who recently has been putting a lot of effort. If you're watching some of the more recent videos, big salutes to Crafty Crab in the community. He actually has been doing a lot of editing for us. But he actually helped me with the concept of this idea. He's like, yeah, this guy does poisons and burns. We just got to, keep him in mindset. And I kept talking to him back and forth. And it's like, yeah, we got to keep in mind this extra damage that Aniri's going to take from, Fat Man's passive and whatnot. And we got to make sure we go there, with decent stat numbers. And we've had some trial and error. We've had some failures along the way. And then we finally hit like this breaking point. It's like, okay, this is a healthy stat. This is a healthy stat range. And then we run it and we start seeing success with it. And I was like, you know what? Hey, I found my answer. Even though it's the most unorthodox experience you could expect, it works, and that's what we were looking for, right? And that ingenuity is another thing that I would say that in 2023, I've been able to healthily experience along the way. Now, we're talking about like a lot of older content, and yes, I've been able to, another thing I'll say that I was able to accomplish, everything that we can do right now in this game in terms of like farming from a dungeon standpoint, I've been able to accomplish, where you can hit 10 out of 10s. I've had a lot of help, don't get me wrong, it's not just me, but we were able to finally get to a point where we get 10 out of 10 on it, and I'm very proud to be able to say that, like, 2023 was a milestone in me being able to hit that and be able to accomplish that across a lot of the different focuses of my account, right? Now, with that being said, we were also proposed with a recent challenge, which I got to give a big salute to Plarium, you guys that may be watching in. You guys did a great job with Curse City. I think Curse City was a smash, you know? And amongst the funny and the happy experience of being able to go through it is finding your own way. When I first started day 1 or day 0, I couldn't do this because I didn't have any type of investment into Quantum at the time, and I was like, man, I'm not ready for it yet. But I want to stay on track for day, being able to get to Amius as quickly as possible. So I ended up going an alternative route, and we found our answer to it to stay on track and stay within time. And thankfully, I was able to do the fight for Amius, and literally using what I consider to be one of the most free-to-play experiences you could have, we were able to beat it, right? And it was really, really fun. Day 0, Climber, I think I was the 30th, the 22nd, or the 28th. It's one of those numbers. But I was amongst some of the top 50 players to first beat it. I was one of the first 50, not top, but one of the first 50 players to beat this boss. And I used one of the most unorthodox teams ever, And believe it or not, it's an accolade that I would hold to myself. It was very validating for myself because a lot of times, a lot of people may not know this, but I have a confliction about, like, we talk about progression states all over the game, whether you're early, mid, late, or end game, true end game, and I'm like, man, I want to claim and be like, yeah, I'm cool, I'm a cool kid, and I could do, like, end game, and when you find yourself hitting these roadblocks, it kind of humbles you a little bit, right? But Amius in particular, I was like, I want to make it a drive to try to beat him as quickly as possible, as effectively as possible, maybe even using teams that are more acquiesceable to your average player. And I'm proud to say that, although it took a little bit of trial and error, I think I took like 7 hours myself to farm this and prog this myself, we were able to do it. And that's an accomplishment that I'll always take with me as, like, a victory, being one of the top 30 or one of the first 30 players to be able to, beat new content as it came out was a great experience, right? Another little accolade I want to give is we just hit the 8 mil player power. I know that means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things, but it's just like a little, like, we got to another point. I was stuck for the longest of times looking like 3 mil, 4 mil, 5 mil. And then, my champion pool started to expand, which brings me to another accolade. We just had one of the most craziest experiences in Raid in terms of events. We had a 2x event, which is great for shard pools, on top of a 10x event, which, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit on the controversial side of saying, like, they're a scam. But this time, playing was like, we're gonna make a believer out of you, and sure enough, I was able to acquire one of the dopest champions of the game. I actually have a couple of clips of it. I don't know if I'll post it as a short on YouTube, or it's available on my shelf for the Twitch side if you want to see that experience in its raw form. Maybe we do a video for you guys. I'm not entirely sure how we'll look at about it, but this is a accolade that was one for the books. I'm very proud to say that I am now an owner of Georgia the Breaker. So that's another big accolade, like hitting some champions that are really, really prominent in terms of, like, they're strong. It's really, really cool. So with that being said, I hope you guys all see a lot of, like, basically what I'm gonna kind of give you guys in a summary, and I'm gonna just name off some other people that may be very prominent in terms of, like, blessing me along the way, such as Supermex, Chaos, Jojo, if you're watching this, Goofy, any of the homies that normally hang out with me in Discord, late night vibes, anybody that's normally very active during my live streams or watch me during my YouTube videos. All of you guys, I couldn't have made it here without y'all, and I want to thank you guys so much for supporting me, and I hope to do right by y'all, moving not only forward into the 2024 year, but throughout my life as I move along. Got to give a special, salute to the family. I recently, reconnected with a lot of family members that I've been away for so long, traveling and, doing content and finally finding a place to situate myself to be home and be present for, like, a lot of real life events and whatnot has been a blessing for me. So big salutes to the La Familia, if you know what I'm talking about. You guys have been with me since day 1, since day 0, since before I was born. So, big salutes to you guys too as well. If you so happen to watch this video. With that being said, I would like to make a declaration moving forward. When it comes to content and, I guess, like, ambitions going towards the future, I'm definitely looking towards, making more and more content for you guys. That's a big focus of mine. I would like to maintain consistency as best I can. I know we've had a little bit of a slowdown since the holidays. but we're going to ramp it up as much as we can. Hopefully with some partnered people like, my boy Crafty, we can really get some content out with you guys. I'll be pumping it out nonstop, and hopefully we can have it chopped up and polished and looking really beautiful for you guys to enjoy. Now, with that being said, I'm hoping, in terms of like what I would like to be able to accomplish, is I would like to expand my champion pool ever so slightly and ever so effectively to be able to acquire enough to be able to fully complete Curse City, since that's the only piece of content right now that I would say I've hit a roadblock with. I think in terms of like any other focuses in PvP, although I'm hoping that before this even becomes a possibility, that if they do decide that they're going to do a shift of like the milestone efforts, I can accomplish getting at least Quintus before then. So that would be like a personal little goal of mine that I'm going to try to see if we go. I'm already like less than 400 away, so like I'm on my way, and with the acquisition of Georgia, maybe that becomes more possible. However, with that being said, we're going to definitely try to see if we can make some pressure and get you guys that little accolade as a personal, finish for myself. And then, of course, I'm not even gonna lie, I wouldn't mind trying to throw my hat in there and getting into the top 100 at the very least for Classic Arena, especially for Plat Reset. There's a lot of heavy hitters up here, and there's a lot of strong people, and I want to salute to them because they are a motivation to overcome. They are a competitive drive that I would like to be able to see myself amongst them as one of the top end competitors. So this will be a fun experience to try to shoot for ever so diligently. So you'll see that. Now, speaking of PvP, another big accolade is I've gotten close to the point where by the time this recording is live, I will have enough medals going into the next day. I'm planning on farming tonight a little bit more, and maybe we'll see if we can get 1,000 medals here, and this will mark my 10 out of 10 times 10 great haul bonuses. And I guess in terms of ambition, by the end of next year, I want this to be done. I want to be able to say I have full gold. This looks good. You guys don't have to laugh anymore for having like level 1s and level 0s anymore. You know what I mean? But we'll definitely get this finished as hard as we can progress, and I look forward to sharing that experience with you guys live whenever I'm on Twitch or whatever the case may be. I do have to say this too as well. A lot of resources that were available to me in terms of like inspiration when I was first coming up as a content creator, I have to, and it goes without saying, you guys know these people very well. They don't need my blessings or accolades or my appreciation, but I'm going to give it regardless. Big salutes to Hell Hades. A lot of the knowledge that I first built upon, like the knowledge that I have now that I'm building upon, has a core foundation of some of the information that he provided from me. And I have to give a big salute to him and his team for, the optimizer. I use it daily. Like, I kid you not, daily, in terms of, like, I just want to do a hypothetical build, or if it's, something I'm working on for other accounts, or whatever the case may be. It's a very nifty tool that's very beneficial. Farbsoft, man, this guy has been cooking the Arsa helper side. If you guys know what that app is, it's dope. And I got to give a big salute to him for his team, working diligently to try to have that up and running for its player base, as not like in tandem with the game as it updates. It's a hard thing to accomplish, and I don't know if it has any reciprocal rewards for him or anything, but I have to give my gratitude because it helps me with a lot of processes. It helps me with information that I look forward to. Sometimes I may be in the middle of a battle, but like I can look up something using that tool or those tools from both him and Hell Hades, and it's very, very good for me. So like I definitely appreciate it. And then of course, and when I was coming up and I was establishing my own teams and getting my account basically off the ground for the first time, Deadwood Jedi, I learned a lot about clan boss from him, and I have to admit that like he, when I first got into this game like aggressively, one of the biggest focuses I wanted to do is be effective at being able to build clan boss teams. So him and amongst his team short on skills is another person that I would say that I've bounced ideas off of, and I'm like tackling to ever improve my experiences in terms of efficiency. And there may be some kinks along the way, is like, I may not have had the experience of like, man, why is this not working? Like I try to not to do that so that people don't have to worry about like, yo, you're burning my resources up. I try to be like frugal with y'all stuff if I'm ever working on your account. So with that being said, I got to give my gratitude to those guys. They definitely have helped me along the way in terms of like just general knowledge. Maybe I haven't had any. I would like to do this too in the future. Some of these people I'm mentioning, I may not have the crazy amount of interaction with in terms of like a direct established connection. I would like to make that a little bit more of reality. I would love to be able to collaborate with some of these guys and whatnot. And I guess maybe to bait the YouTube algorithm here for a second, if there is any content creator you would like to see me interact with, in any capacity, let me know in the comments below. I'm definitely interested to hear what you guys have to say, because at the end of the day, you guys are the reason why we're doing this, right? And with all that being said, I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, and if time allows me or doesn't allow for me to have like any other videos, leading up to New Year's, I hope you have a Happy New Year, and I look forward to experiencing and enjoying the journey that is 2024 with you guys that are watching. And I guess I could just leave it here and say, always remember to stay ascended. Click together, yeah.